the break about the creation of a team. All of you do have some kind of I guess I can actually say all of you have teams. The question is that how do you structurally, in your CSA, make the team both very visible as well as really provide a specific function. Of course, for that will be the cultural linguistic aspect of the organizations, and how to do that. I'd love to hear both Gandhara and other organizations, if you have either have done it or you're beginning to grow it, or in terms of for that. I think that's kind of important to hear, because that is really the truly sustainable part of this whole, I call it, movement within an organizations. So are there anything else, other activities that has been explored, discussed, or maybe even some seeds are being planted from any organization? I think everyone's reported, but yes.
When I was at the school here, we started lunchtime. Somebody might bring a film in or something to talk about. So people could just come, get opportunities on just a regular basis to it was not mandatory, which I think made it better. It was during lunch. And so if you want to try to bring in cultural pieces that find time are hard to schedule, that's a nice way to do it. And people, I think, are better when they decide they want to, as opposed to when they have to.
Yes.
The Home for the Wanderers has a diversity committee, so you're being introduced to the book What If? I don't know if you're familiar with that. Author, but I put it out there. It's a really easy read. They take simple subject matters, really short, easy to read chapters that have very provocative questions that follow. One of the chapters is Nubby Sandals, where the wife has Nubby sandals and the husband puts them on to go outside and put the trash out. And he's really bothered by the Nubby sandals. Questioned his wife, why would she wear these things? They're uncomfortable. She said they were uncomfortable at first, but she got used to it. So it was just a simple little dialogue like that about nubby sandals that then led to all these provocative questions about something being uncomfortable at first, but then it was and we started talking about culture and differences. So that's a great book, and so we're sharing that with staff. There's videos from, what is that, National Symposium?
It's actually on C-SPAN, I think, or something like that. But it was a woman giving a speech. It was but it was phenomenal.
I was phenomenal, whoever it was. Yeah. Some great videos to watch and have discussion with staff. And then the other thing is, I had Susan Bohr, who is, everyone here knows who Susan Bohr is. She does the family partner wraparound trainings for us. Her last consultation with us, I had her present to the executives of the Wanderers, because she's the real deal and she keeps it real raw. And I thought it would be important for the executives to get in touch with what it means for our family partners, just to sort of stretch their thinking and understanding and empathy towards workforce that we're hiring and the expectations that we're putting on them. And that went over really well. She did a great job. She always does.
Something else we've done, like as part of our comprehensive assessment or the strengths and culture discovery, is kind of like what are the values of the family. But to ask somebody that, if somebody asks me that, I'd be like, I have no idea. So we've kind of like, there's the Foundation for a Better Life, like they have those like big billboards. They do like mostly it's like a nonprofit that does like campaigns for a better life, I guess. But they have a whole list of like values that somebody might hold, and so we make cards that have all these different values on them and kind of bring them as like an icebreaker game to families to kind of allow them to identify for us, like choose a couple. Each family member can choose a couple on the table and tell us like why is that card important to them and like what does that remind them of. So like loyalty or love or trust or all these different things. That's something that we've kind of done, and then with the staff we've done that too. And also again talked about helping the staff kind of get to know themselves better and their culture better, and doing an activity that's called kind of like crossing the line. I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of that, where they kind of you put a question out to the group about something that might be something that identifies them, and people can come up and kind of share their experience with identifying that might be. somebody kind of like reinforces what they've heard and kind of just lets people get to know each other on a deeper level than just the surface.
That's actually a really great activity with youth as well.
Yeah.
I worked with eighth schools and we did that with eighth graders, and so you have kids in line, and the questions might be something like, I have a family member who's identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, and you see at first all the kids are kind of inside their skins, not sure, should I cross the line or not? But one or two starts to, and then 3, 4, and 5, and suddenly you see that the culture in the group even shifts by learning about what other pieces of that kid's culture are common ground. And the questions can be very provocative, or they can be something like, I'm the first kid in my family that's ever passed the 8th grade. Some of those kids stepped forward, and it was just really impactful. There's also a book that I just want to say out loud in this group, because I've been through cultural competency trainings where this came up a lot. It's called Spirit Catches You When You Fall Down. And so most people know that. If anybody does not, it's definitely a read, but it's the story of a Filipino or a Hmong population in this culture, whereby a family has a young girl who has epilepsy, pretty severe epilepsy. It talks about how Western medicine responds to her epilepsy, really frequently missing the cultural underpinnings of how that family doesn't respond to Western medicine, but might respond to a shaman or a curandera or whatever their name for that is in the culture. It's got a lot of, I just punched it in right as we were talking, it's got a lot of questions for group study that are applicable to whether or not we might want to, in any CSA, do trainings on culture, because it really brings up those topics. And years later, after the author wrote this book, the Western docs that were highlighted, but their names were all changed, came back and said, yeah, they botched it, and they missed all these cultural insinuations that they stumbled over without knowing, because we all do that every day. But it's just, there are a lot of activities like that.
I just want to say this might be completely unrelated, but we started to play music in the beginning and the end of staff meeting. Like that has a theme, just to get people open to doing work, because it's a lot of work, and they're out here doing it all the time, every day, and then every time they show up, you're like, and so now we're gonna do this to add to everything else you have to do, and then we want you to consider this, and the strength piece is gonna come back to you 12 times, and and we started giving out Oscars for little things, like a special call where they said, oh, they did an awesome job, or a school that might say they were so helpful, or whatever. And so we've been giving out Oscars and recognizing, celebrating little, really great cans. You might get an Oscar for doing a really great can. And the music, and it's lightened the mood a little bit, so that they can be open to all of this stuff coming back at them all the time, every week.
Let me ask you a broad question, and I think that usually comes up, but maybe you actually all are managing that very well in a very creative way. Do you sense, what is the biggest challenge for you to go back to your organization, to your CSA, to the team? What's the biggest challenge when you have to introduce this whole cultural linguistic competence? I see there's a lot of creativity, because you talk about integration. We're going to integrate that into what we do. The dyads and so forth. Are there any challenges that you want to share with the group, or maybe even solutions? Because are we putting on top of another thing? I think I heard a couple of times now. This is another thing we need to do.
I think
Yes.
the number one challenge would be the productivity. It's in 3 years. If we're going to be asked to do something additional that we could not bill for,
Yeah.
that's a problem, because we have to have our units in. There's no going wrong there.
Comments or I know that there's few hands, so I'm just.
Just to reiterate, my immediate response in my brain was time and productivity. But in addition, I think that we all think of ourselves as people, we like to think of ourselves in a positive manner. So we think of ourselves as being culturally aware, or I'm not in that category of people that need to be more sensitized, and need to kind of look at my own stuff. And so I think that's a battle too. And we go into trainings initially, there may be with a large group of folks sort of this wall up that says, what are you gonna give me that I don't already know? Or I'm not sure I wanna go into this exploration. So that's another, it's just another obstacle, not one that can't be overcome, one that is there to begin with.
The one thing that I would like to see happen is to keep programs like this alive, because we're here as a group, and as a group, there's a lot of energy in the room. But when you go out and you're going out on an individual basis, and you're facing the same issues and concerns, you may lose it along the way with everything else that you're faced with. So while we're here rallying, use that term, you know, you're inspired, but sometimes you lose that